Cabo.
In Cabo. There we go. He's looking for a new deal. He's got 2 years remaining on his current contract, but hoping to be among the highest paid, if not the highest paid, running back in the league. Again, 1 week to go in the preseason before things get serious next week. Here's Ed Werder with the latest.
Well, Wendy, I exchanged text messages last night with Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk. He's been in Cabo San Lucas training Elliott so he can be ready to play when the contract is resolved. Faulk told me Elliott's fitness level is great, but that's not the same as being in game shape. Faulk intends to close the gap by putting Elliott into what he called active game situations, saying the only thing that can't be simulated is the contact required in the NFL. Like Elliott, Faulk and Eric Dickerson are represented by agent Rocky Arsenault. Both Hall of Fame running backs have been publicly supportive of Elliott. And I asked Faulk whether he believed that Elliott was willing to miss games over his insistence on becoming the highest paid running back in the NFL. Faulk countered with a question of his own. Wendy, he said, the question is, are the Cowboys willing to have him miss games because they don't believe he should be the highest paid running back?
Ed, thank you. And Ed, of course, reporting the latest a few days ago, which was, and Dan, you can correct me if there's been anything additional, that the last offer came from the team. It was a significant offer and one that would certainly give Zeke a raise, but I would gather doesn't make him the highest paid running back in the league.
No, but the last proposals, as I understand it, were exchanged, prior to training camp. And so, really, you remember the old Saturday Night Live sketch where they said Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead? Like, that was nothing's happened on the Ezekiel Elliott story in about a month. And so we all want updates, and it's, and Ed's obviously working hard talking to Marshall Faulk, getting the latest. But he said the question is, are the Cowboys willing to have him miss games? Both of those things are the question. The question that Ed asked Marshall and the question that Marshall asked Ed. Is Elliott willing to sit out? Are the Cowboys willing to have him sit out? The answer to both questions is probably no, but right now it's a game of chicken. Whose date comes first, where they can't stomach it any longer? We're in crunch time now. If he's not there, certainly by this time next week, then they have to seriously confront the idea of him missing real regular season action.
Well, sure. The problem is there are a lot of questions. Both of those questions are appropriate. We just don't have any answers. And everybody up until this point, and even Josina, who was talking about this late last week, said there's no cause for panic. There's still time. All of that. I get it. But aren't we getting close to that time where there should be cause for concern?
I would say as long as he gets into Cowboys facility in Frisco Wednesday before that Sunday game.
So that's next Wednesday,
yeah,
after Labor Day.
I think that's fine. As far as football acclimated things, Marshall's with him. Okay, he knows what to do. He can simulate things like Marshall said, except the contact. It's the same offense. There's nothing that he's going to be missing. The problem is, how much money does he want? The structure. What does Rocky want up front? What's the guaranteed money? What's the language in the contract? All of those sort of things, it takes a few hours to get solved. You know that, Dan, as well as you know that, Rob. It's easy to do. The Cowboys don't want to start off the season without their star running back in the backfield. That's why Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones believe that a deal will get done before the start of the season.
It is a game of chicken, though, Rob. Would you, do you agree with that? That ultimately somebody caves here, this gets done, and he's with the team. Camp will be over, but he's with the team in time.
They need to get it done, and they need to do that soon because there's a team there waiting for a guy that's a big piece there. And we all know that
the biggest piece.
The biggest piece, yeah. Right? And we all know how short an NFL career is. So if I'm on that team, I'm like, look, I need one of my key pieces to trying to get to the ultimate, which is the Super Bowl, right? So they need to figure it out and figure it out fast because you can't simulate contact. And when he comes back and say it is week 2 or week 3 and he hasn't had the contact, like who's to say an injury isn't there because he's not used to the contact? So the quicker that they can figure it out and get it done, the better off everyone will be.
Yeah, the question is tolerance, right? The Cowboys don't want him to miss games. They have high hopes. They believe they have a great defense. They're excited about the offense with a full season of Amari Cooper. He's obviously what makes it go. So can they tolerate the idea of him missing games? And then can he tolerate the idea of not getting paid, right?
He's already faced that with the suspension where he lost game checks for doing that. I'm sure he doesn't want to continue to keep losing money.
So if he doesn't show up by 4 o'clock Eastern time next Tuesday, then he doesn't get paid for week 1. Now, that could end up being worked out, right? They add that back into the contract. But that's when it starts to get real for him, right? So it's interesting to see. We're at the point now where there are deadlines coming, and whoever's deadline shows up first is probably the one that ends up sort of giving in.
Well, the one thing you could argue that unlike, say, a Le'Veon Bell or Antonio Brown, they're not trying to assimilate with a new team in camp and with these reps. He knows his quarterback. He knows this offense.